Welcome to Architecting Intelligence. As usual, this series brings together the leaders, builders, and innovators shaping the future of technology and business. Every episode is a conversation. Today, it's my turn to have that conversation. We will hear directly, of course, from people building real systems, solving real problems, and making decisions on IT that matter. We'll explore what's changing across AI, data infrastructure, cloud, cybersecurity, and what those changes mean for business leaders today. And we want to understand what's happening beyond the headlines, real details. What are organizations prioritizing? Where are they struggling? And what lessons are emerging from those on the front line? And today, we're talking about a simple but really, really important question that I must say a lot of my customers are struggling with as well. And that is, who controls and accesses my data when I am actually using that data for AI use cases and agentic AI use cases? Of course, over the last couple of years, the AI conversation has been largely focused on which models, what are the capabilities of the models, what are the use cases, where do I find my GPUs? So very, very compute-centric. Today, to help us a little bit cut through the chase and the marketing hype here, I'm joined by Arnold Juffer. He's the founder and CEO of Nebul. Nebul is a Dutch AI cloud provider. They're focused on sovereign and private AI infrastructure. And the approach they have is really built around a simple idea to bring the AI to the data rather than just copying and moving the data to wherever the AI can be delivered at a certain moment in time. And this is delivered through what Nebul calls a European neocloud, a specialized hybrid model that keeps sensitive data under local control, while still enabling high-performance AI workloads. Arnold has spent years building cloud and high-performance computing infrastructure, and today is helping enterprises navigate some of these bigger questions around AI adoption, sovereignty, and trust. Arnold, welcome to Architecting Intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Arnold, we've spoken before, of course, and every time we speak, you always say something around, look, we have to make sure that we bring, will our customers to bring, the AI to the data, to where they have the data, rather than just having them copy it, to wherever, at that moment in time, the AI models are or can be run. Okay. What's, in your opinion, driving that shift, and how did that thinking ultimately lead to, of course, Nebul and to the model that you've developed as a neocloud?
Yes, so I think it has two parts that answer, Jurgen. On one hand, you want to make sure that your data is your IP, right? These are your golden eggs, so to say. So most companies really want to protect their data assets and their IP without sharing that IP or leaking that IP to an outside company, where it's out of your control, and this company will compound on your knowledge and on your intellectual property. So protecting data is super important, because it is what differentiates you from the rest. It's your competitive moat. And on the other hand, it's very important to bring AI to your data, because if you just use a generic AI model, you will get generic outcomes, right? So if you want to make sure that AI functions at its highest precision and gives you the best outcomes, then you need to make sure that it's placed in the proper context, in your business context. And your business context consists of your data. And if you want to do it smartly, and I think if we have a look forward where AI is going, we will have an agentic workforce in the company, and that agentic workforce will need to have 24/7 access to your data. You need to be able to protect it. You need to be able to trust it. You need to be able to basically put guardrails around it. And that works best if you make sure that you have that data and that AI within your control. So.
A little bit linked to that, if you want, Arnold, is there's a protection of the data, of course, and then there is what you do with that data. And, we've seen, of course, a significant amount of POCs happening, people, trialing And then, I remember a discussion we had not so long ago on, the difference between people that are really successful and then people that are not at all successful in bringing, real AI use cases live and actually, making them profitable. In your opinion, your experience, what do you think separates companies that successfully bring AI into production, live with real return on investment, and the ones that are, struggling to scale here?
If you want to do AI, you should start with AI, right? So, and I think a lot of companies are starting with it, but they get stuck in experiment mode. So, having an organization, having a clear picture, how you want to execute on AI, what goals you want to achieve with AI, and making sure that you have the right resources in place, I would say that's number one. Number two is expect failure. Expect a lot of failure, right? So it's not going to be that you say, well, it's this single use case, that's what we're going to do, and we need to bring that to a success, and success is a hard defined outcome. I would say part of the experimentation is finding out what works and what doesn't work, and you need to find the successes and scale those across the company. So that's a very important one. And the third one is, as companies start using AI, they start noticing that it's super hard to get the right data to the AI, the right information to the AI. So it actually making a successful AI project involves a lot of data curation and data science normally. Yeah, there are lots of tools that can help you do that, but you need some form of data creation, data science in your team to make that happen. And if you want to do it efficiently, there are lots of tools that can help you, but it's a big part of making AI successful. Yeah, and I would say these three are the most common causes of AI stalling. Yeah,
We absolutely see that. I think I want to kind of, when I dig a bit deeper in details and people talk about sovereignty, they don't always really understand what it is. Right? Of course, you're working, with customers that are really, that really want to have control on their data and their models, and for whom sovereignty is really important. So maybe it would be good to kind of share a little bit your experience of what it is, like what is sovereignty really, what does it really mean, and how can it, of course, be delivered.
So for I would say sovereignty means something different to everybody, right? If you ask a government department what they mean with it versus a commercial company, there's a different answer. But I would say it's basically about control, right? So who controls the switch, right? Who controls if you have access to the model, yes or no? Who controls if you have access to the data, yes or no? And who owns the model in the end? So I'm a big advocate for owning your own AI. I think with all these beautiful open source models out there, it's very easy to take an open source model and tailor it to your specific business needs and requirements. And you need to make sure that you can run that model in a place that is sovereign by design, right? That can be your own data center on premises. And that's a location where you control access and who has the switch, right? The on-off switch. But it can also be a cloud that provides the same guarantees to you. And unfortunately for lots of clouds, they're basically subject to the laws of the land, right? So jurisdiction is super important too. If you run these workloads in a jurisdiction that has different has a different view on what access to data looks like, that's something that you need to take into consideration too. So I would say yes, owning it, putting it in your own data center, making sure that you're the only tenant on that platform. That is that's the number one sovereignty, and then you can have steps towards full public services, right? If you use OpenAI or something, that's a full public platform. You don't really control the data or the IP that's going in there. And just an example, right? Other platforms are similar. But there are steps between that with absolute frontier capabilities and the models that you put in your own data center and run completely privately.
I would argue that gap is actually, I wouldn't say closing completely, but it's like if you do the right fine tuning or you create the right, domain specific models, with the amount of open weight models that are available now, it's becoming actually pretty feasible, right?
Yes.
What's your view
Oh,
there?
absolutely.
Yeah.
With the latest open source, open weight models, it was months behind, right? I would say it was months behind. It's now weeks, right? So we had the whole Fable discussion, Fable 5. And if you look what Moonshot is doing with Kimi today, and also the announcement from Gwen 3.8, these models are just seconds behind what Anthropic is doing and what OpenAI is doing. And I think it's good for the market that we have that competition. I think it's very good for companies to have the option to use open source models, and especially like you just said, right? These models get way better if you tailor them to your specific business context or to a specific task that you're basically using this AI for. So
better and cheaper, I would argue. Yeah.
Yes.
So exactly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, and so what's Nebul's position there? What, like specifically around sovereignty, running your own models, like what is it specifically that you bring to your customers?
For us, ownership is very important. So we have a model hub where we provide these open source models in European data centers operated from Europe, owned from Europe. So it's really a full sovereign play in the European zone. We provide these open source models to our customers with the ability to port them, right? So if they want to offload the model, they want to fine tune or train a model, and they want to run it somewhere else, that's fine by us. So you're not bound to our infrastructure. You can basically run this on every infrastructure that supports these open standards. And I think that's the way to move forward, right? So we provide infrastructure, we provide smart tools to build models, and we make sure that you can run it in a very secure, private, and sovereign way. But we also want to provide the portability and optionality to our customers that if they want to run it somewhere else, that they are able to do so. And I think that a pretty important part of our strategy is that we combine public cloud service, our cloud services with on-premises deployment, because we think there are a lot of organizations that still have large data sets on-premises that could really benefit from being used with AI. But they don't necessarily have the capability to run these big models. So the hybrid model is, I think, the way forward, right? So on-premise data, cloud data, combined with all kinds of different data sources that could come from anywhere, and having the capabilities and the optionality to run it where it makes most sense and runs best is, I think, part of the strategy. Yeah,
we've seen a sovereign reflex in Europe, and of course, Nebul is providing an answer to that. There's a few others as well. So, like looking into the future, like how do you see this evolve in a sense? Like, is this going to become the default standard for companies? Is this like specific sectors? Like, how do you see that kind of network of European neoclouds evolve in terms of like, and what kind of services do you see them over time bringing to European companies? Amazing.
Yeah, so I'm very optimistic about Europe. So I think
It's good, me too. So there's two of us. That's great. that gets us a full quorum here, 100%.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Yeah.
But we need to. I think we skipped on cloud, right? So we lost. We didn't build a cloud capability, and I think that's something that AI is basically opening the door to. So we can build our own infrastructure. I think this is a huge opportunity for Europe to build its own AI infrastructure and cloud infrastructure, because AI will be such a big reset also on the cloud infrastructure, and that's what the big hyperscale clouds also see, right? So this is the opportunity to do so. I think that we should make sure that we have multiple operators in Europe so that there's optionality, but we should stick to the open source standards, right? So that you're not stuck on one cloud to do business with, but that you have the options the option to move to another cloud if necessary. I would say that would be an approach that I would be very welcoming to. Like I said, I think AI is a great opportunity for us all to start building that infrastructure. And I don't think that needs to be, all the components need to be from Europe. I would argue that we will combine the best components out there. It could be European, could be American, and it could be Asian, right? So that doesn't really matter to me. I think we need to make sure that we get a platform in place that is competitive with what the US clouds are doing today. So that's a big challenge, but I think it's a necessity for Europe to be relevant in the next economical phase that we're moving into with agentic AI. So it's a big challenge, but we're trying to fulfill on that.
I get kind of on a final note, then letting you, I guess, dream a bit. Then like if you take your reasoning that you just said and bring it forward 5 years, what's your wish? How do you see 5 years from now that European cloud infrastructure? Like, what would be like the state we should aim for together?
Next to, I think that we have a unique position to basically put the European values on cloud infrastructure, right? So I think we have a little bit of a different view on what privacy means and what portability means. So I would really applaud that we build something that adheres to these values, but has the scale and is competitive in terms of functionality. Because I think most companies today are basically in a squeeze between capabilities and functionality and sovereignty. So it's great that everybody wants to do sovereignty, but on the scale of importance, sovereignty is lower than capabilities and functionality today, right?
Exactly.
So the challenge is on us to build something that can compete on these capabilities with other clouds from the world. And I would say, if you look 5 years ahead, I would say, I would really like to have something at cosmic scale, European scale, that provides the capabilities where your European economy can run on top of. It doesn't have to be that we are the only. We would like to be the biggest supplier, obviously, in this service. But I think it would be very healthy if we have multiple suppliers from multiple countries connected and making sure that we have something.
The good thing is the investment is starting to get there, which is, I think, something we've missed for a bit, specifically in the infrastructure. So I think we're really going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we need to, European organizations really need to start putting some action into, instead of just having the conversations and the meetings. So we should shift towards action and making sure that we try to help these neo clouds to become successful. And I think there's a big, I would say, challenge also for European governments and large organizations and enterprises to make sure that we help these neo clouds succeed in the market. Yes, because it takes two to tango, right? Yeah,
absolutely. You know that we're absolutely close to our heart. Given from a NetApp perspective, we work with a lot of your potential customers. I think this is a key priority for us in Europe. So you know that, right? So I think
right.
Absolutely close to our heart. Hey, Arnold, thanks a lot. Really, really appreciate the discussion. I think we've highlighted, in this discussion, I think that it's not just about where the AI is run, where the model is run, just the access to what kind of model. It's about data control, like what kind of control do you have on your data, capability of, harvesting your data, and then being able to use it in a controlled way, in a governed way. And that I think you're spot on the sovereignty here. I think with the advent of the Nebuls of the world, I think we're getting into a point where less and less you have to choose between control and sovereignty. The capabilities are there, so there is an option to go and have both, tight control of where the data runs and what access to which models and which GPUs you have, and at the same time still be compliant and and have control of your data. So that's, I think we're getting into a place where that is absolutely possible. Arnold, thanks a lot. Huge thanks for sharing your perspectives, your experiences, and thank you for being a driving force in Europe to build that infrastructure, and to build that AI infrastructure, helping I think also enterprises understand what they can do with it.
Thank you very much, Jurgen. Pleasure being here.
And thank you all for joining us on Architecting Intelligence, and we'll see you next time.